Hello and welcome to Monstrositeez. Today I am making another book, but this time I'm making one for myself. I really enjoy fall colors like you wouldn't believe, so I have chosen pumpkins for my cover and kind of a wheatgrass for my inlay. I am using the leftover scraps of cardstock paper from my last books that you had seen from this channel, and I am making it kind of a Neapolitan style kind of mixture for my book. So all I'm doing is folding the cardstock paper into halves. I ended up having a little bit extra paper than the other books just because, you know, it is their scraps, so it was a little uneven. You fold all of them until you get something that looks like this. So all I do is I stamp it to the ground to kind of even up the spine. Look how chunky it is. Then all I do is smash it with my fingers and trying to lay it as smooth as it can be. Alright, now I am working on cutting out my cardboard, which are going to be my covers. This is the process I had done for the others, but because I ran out of them because I pre-cut them, I've decided to show the process and how it's done since I was there. Why I might be struggling, you might ask? It's because I'm actually cutting through 2 layers of cardboard. This way it's an even front and back. My X-Acto knife doesn't cut all the way through, but it does leave a mark for the next cut. But then again, maybe I just need to change my blade again. I think I actually ended up cutting out 4 pre-cuts, which is 8 separate pieces of cardboard, but it makes only 4 book covers. Alright. So, on to marking the spine with a pencil so you know where to poke your holes. Lately, I have just been doing 4 lines, which seems to be more than enough, and it does help go through them a little quicker, since it takes about 3 hours per book, and the more line work you have to do, the longer it will take to finish a book. Now I'm moving on to tracing my inlay, which it only takes 1 sheet for the inside, and 2 sheets for the outside covers. When I trace the outside covers, you mark the size of the paper and then you put little tabs on the outside. That way you leave just enough room to fold them over the edges. Oh, and I think I already forgot to mention, this is scrapbooking paper. I am just using it for pretty detailing for a cover. It's very lightweight, very delicate, and can be easily ruined by water and all that stuff. It's just scrapbook paper. It's pretty. Now we're moving on to the gluing stage. All I use is it's a school craft glue stick. You smother it all over the top and then lay your inlay on top of your perfect cut cardboard. And then you want to do this twice, obviously, for the back and front of each separate piece of cardboard. See? Now you have 2. So now we are going to do the same thing, but for the front cover. You slather the inside where you left your mark, put it on top, and then making sure it's all nice and pressed down, of course. And then you obviously will put the glue on the tab as well as where the tab will fold to, because it adheres faster. I don't know why, but it does. I like to fold them at the ends first and then the long parts last, just so it has a kind of a neater edge. And you're going to want to do this twice for the back and front. Now I'm moving on to the poking of the holes process. All I take is a simple pinhead needle and then poke the holes where I left my pencil mark. And you're going to do this until you get all the way through however many pages you've made. So now I have doubled up my pages, which are called signatures. I did in fact pierce these individually, but you can choose to stab through them both at the same time if you want, if they're laying kind of inside of each other. I just think that the holes look neater if you don't. As you may have noticed, I had used my random sculpting tool, which is just something with a point, and went ahead and pierced all the way through the backing of my book. Then all I'm doing here is prepping my needle because I didn't do that. And I'm going to be using waxed thread. It's just something I found. I don't actually remember where I got it. think from Hobby Lobby or something. So what I'm doing here is you sew into the paper first, and in my case I'm going through 2 pages. Then once you're through your paper, you stab down inside the book, wrap it around and back through the hole. Then you go across into your second hole and do the exact same thing. Go inside the hole closest to the hole, wrap it all the way around and back through the hole, just making little hoops until you go all the way across. Through the hole, down inside, wrap it and back through the hole. Simple as that. Now, when we get to the end, we again go through the cardstock into your prepared little hole and go straight down. Wrap it around and back through the hole just like before. But the little twist is once you get back inside, you tie a little knot and then go back through the exact same hole you just came out of. Now you grab your second sheet of paper, making sure your holes line up. And then start where you kind of left off by going through the hole. Now we're going across through the second hole. Now we sew under the first layer of paper, and then you just go right back into the same hole you just came out of. Then you do the same thing. You go across, go under the first layer of paper, make a little kind of a little crescent moon shaped, and then back through the hole until you get all the way across. And now that we're at the end here, you keep that shape, you go in, you tie a knot, and you come back out of the same hole where the knot is. And then you put your third layer of paper on. Make sure the holes line up, and then you pierce closest to the hole you just came out of. So we go across, we're just going in reverse now, go into the second hole, and then you go to your second layer and go right between the first page and the second page. Wrap your needle around until it makes the exact same crescent moon shape, and then back through the hole on the top. Can you see that? It's a little fuzzy. Then you just go back and forth, back and forth. So once I get my fourth layer, it needs to go in between the pages 3 and 2. And when I get to my 5th page, it'll go between 4 and 3. And when you get to your 6th, it'll go between 5 and 4. Does that make sense? Because you're trying to keep your thread a straight line. Because if you bunch up by staying, for instance, if you go all the way up to page 5 and you kept it under page 1, you're going to have a bent, arced book. It will fold really funny. It will not lay flat. It will basically be trying to turn itself into a circle. As you can see, at this point I'm on page 8, and you can see that I'm going between the pages 7 and 6. And all I'm doing is making the same little hoop. I go through the hole until I go all the way across. Now with the front cover, once you get to your final piece of paper, you tie your knot and go back through the same hole like you normally would. Then you put your cover on. I kind of go in reverse, so I wrap it around the front of the book and down into the hole instead of into the hole and wrap it around like I did for the back, if that makes any sense. But then you just sew it like you normally would. In my case, I have 9 separate sheets, and despite the fact that I'm leaving kind of a bigger hoop, I do sew it like I normally would. So my top layer book is theoretically my 10th sheet, and therefore I sew between pages 9 and 8. And if you decided to sew your final page along with your cover, it's a little bit more of a dance, but it's still kind of the same thing, but only instead, since you're also working with your 9th page, you would sew between 8 and 7, if that makes sense. So here I just take my tacky glue and I just smear a little bit on the threads and kind of go up and down with my finger just to give it a little bit more support, even though it doesn't need it. It just makes me feel better. So I'm on to figuring out what kind of little fancy I want on the cover, and these are a few of the little scrapbook pieces. I don't know what they really are that I kind of liked, so I'm kind of just filtering through them, and this is kind of my thought process on how I do it. So I'm going through multiples at a time, trying to find the one that I think is the prettiest. And I chose this red one here. I think it just looked the best. It really popped. I decided to go ahead and place it in the middle because I just think it looked better than it did on top. And all I used to glue it down was the school craft glue stick. Now I'm on to working on making my envelope that I like to put on the inside of each book. I like to keep the leftover scraps from the inlay since it matches and it kind of helps make it disappear. From there, you just take, again, your school craft glue stick, put it on the edges, but try not to seal it. Then fold it over. Trim it up if you need to make it a little bit prettier. And once you're satisfied with that, if you accidentally cut too much of the glue off, you can also reseal the sides. And at least it'll lay evenly like you had it before. And then once you're satisfied, you can smear the whole back, but try not to get the actual lip because you will accidentally seal it. And then I just put in the little handmade card that just says it's handmade, made with recycled paper. And since I like that other little scrapbook piece that was supposed to go onto a cover, it just looks so pretty, I just decided to go ahead and keep it as a bookmark. This is me filtering through it to show that it lays flat. And this is the end of my video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Think about leaving a like, subscribe, comment, and hit that bell icon. It'll really help the channel out. This is Monstrositeez saying bye-bye!